So I guess the first question is why? Why are we making this change to the planning system and bringing trees within the planning system? And the simple answer to that is that last year the State Assembly passed an amendment to the Planning and Building Law which brought trees, work on trees, within the scope of the Planning and Building Law. But the wider reason is because I think that amendment reflected the fact that we value trees so much more now, and that has come through in many different ways. I get a lot of correspondence from people who complain about trees that have disappeared, or are worried that the trees might be under threat, or they see work beginning on trees and they are concerned that it's going to mean the loss of trees that they are particularly attached to. So there's that sort of almost emotional attachment to trees that I think is significant. We also know that trees play an important part in our landscape. They have obviously a terrific amenity value, visual amenity value. A landscape with a tree is very different to a landscape without trees, and so that's important. We know that from a scientific point of view, they play a really important role in carbon drawdown, taking carbon out of the atmosphere, and improving the quality of the air. You know, we know this in urban environments where they're particularly important. So there's a lot of reasons why trees, I think giving trees more protection is important. On the other side, of course, I know that there are people who are worried that this is a sledgehammer to crack a nut, that this is over-regulation and that it shouldn't be necessary to go to these lengths. And that's what this consultation is about, really. It's about trying to strike the balance between having a system which is fairly light touch, but which does ensure that where significant work is being carried out on trees, that it is properly considered. So, for example, there are a lot of exceptions, so work that you can do without applying for any planning permission. And those are things like, for example, if the tree is dangerous, if it's causing damage to a building, those sorts of things. There's a long list of these exemptions, these exceptions, and that's important. And then if you're not covered by an exception, then the next stage is to notify the planning department that you're planning to undertake work, and there'll be a series of drop-down menus where you can choose from which you can choose to fill in the relevant information. So it should be as simple as possible, and then there'll be an assessment made about whether the tree whether the tree work that you want to do should be given permission straight away, or whether you need to apply for planning permission. And we expect the vast majority of people going into this process to get permission automatically. But if it's deemed that that permission isn't forthcoming automatically, then you'll need to put in a full planning application. So what I do is encourage people to engage with that process. If you have concerns, read the consultation material and give us some feedback. We've had a load of feedback already, 140 plus, I think, responses. So we'll be taking all that into account and refining if necessary. I think this consultation is a good piece of work. I hope that people do engage with it, and we end up with a landscape where we give better protection to trees than we currently do, but not in a way that makes it feel like it's overbearing.